trigger happy and I give less than a fuck. Love me or hate me, I'ma show enough, rip shit up. It's Mr. Nothing, nice on a mic stand. Mic in the left and the zest in my right hand. I took a puff, had enough now, hold up. If that was Indo, niggas getting rolled up.
Welcome, folks. So this is Acid Roots. I'm going to review the LMFAO solo project by Redfoo, which is basically Party Rock Mansion. So LMFAO, a little backdrop about them. They were this pretty huge electronica duo that kind of did like rap electronic type stuff. And they dropped 2 albums in 2009 and 2011. And particularly their 2011 album took the world by storm, really famous, but then they abruptly went on hiatus in early 2012 while they were in the middle of the album rollout for that project, and they just never came back, and then the group split up. And so basically Sky Blue and Redfoo I want to say maybe they had initially thought of doing a third album, but it just never materialized. And years later, Redfoo decided to start having a solo career and continue putting out songs, which is pretty awesome just because it's basically an extension of LMFAO for diehard fans and people who absolutely don't want to give up that style, which is pretty awesome. So I take that, and it even has like a similar name to the LMFAO albums called Party Rock Mansion, where their 2009 album was called Party Rock, and their 2011 breakout album was called Sorry for Party Rocking. So this is basically, might as well be the third LMFAO album. The unfortunate thing is Redfoo has not dropped anything since March of 2016. That's when this album came out. So the kind of situation about it is it's really, once again, it feels like hiatus, but this had a pretty good promotion. Redfoo still puts out singles occasionally, but just to kind of talk about this had several promotional singles. And I really appreciated it. But to say a little bit about this, the kind of cruddy thing about this sort of situation is the fact that it really tanked in terms of sales. Like, I'm looking online, and it basically said that this album only sold 144 copies, and that was just throughout Australia. So really, it didn't do that well. I knew about this album. Here's a fun fact, is I was going to review this project way back in like the spring of 2016, but because I was trying to tone down the amount of drinking I was doing back then, I chose not to do it because I knew that this album was going to really make me want to get torn up and fucked up and that sort of stuff. So I didn't review it back in 2016. And then I always kept this project on the back burner. I was going to review it in 2021 again, but I just said, So I'm finally reviewing this. I've been itching to review this. This is definitely a project I've wanted to review, and it's a pretty brilliant project. I'm going to go ahead and say it's just going to get a high score. That's in simplicity, just because of it's basically like an extension of LMFAO and what they had in mind, and that's really the concept behind it. Is just how brilliant that winds up being. Redfoo is pretty solid on his own, but we'll go ahead and talk about the singles. So the first single is New Thing, and to talk about these singles, the situation about it is Redfoo really tries some new tricks, which is not just electronica and EDM type stuff that's in these singles. It's not just electronica and EDM that's kind of in these singles. There's actually some additional stuff. I mean, it has like some kind of, this song has similarities to Jason Derulo, Talk Dirty to Me. That was a popular song around that time. So this is kind of within the concept of, like, this song to me is not a club song. I mean, it feels like a social song, but I feel like Redfoo has moved past just only having songs for bars and dance clubs and that type of stuff, where there are other places that you can go to kind of get turned up and be festive and flirt with women, like restaurants. I felt like this is kind of a song that you could hear at like maybe Olive Garden or Wingstop or someplace like that, someplace where there might be alcohol, but there's just, more of a restaurant kind of groovy, kind of maybe on a date type feel. It just has a lot more outgoingness to it that's not just solely in the dance club and the VIP or something. So it's interesting to kind of see that. I did appreciate that, but it's just kind of a different expectation for it. If you're expecting like, hey, I want to pound shots and get completely tanked, well, it has more of like kind of rendezvous and date type stuff in mind. And it's the same thing with the second single, Juicy Wiggle, only this is a lot way more lighthearted than New Thing. Like I would feel like Party Train is probably the most out social. Party Train is probably the most adult and drink ready one and club ready. Then it's New Thing, but Juicy Wiggle really has kind of almost like a doo-wop feel to it, like a 50s and early 60s doo-wop kind of feel. This one really feels like you're just at kind of like a meager kind of restaurant, just maybe getting, just just someplace like Olive Garden, someplace like that, just getting some food out on a date, that type of stuff. It's dance ready, but not quite in the sense as far as trying to say that you're going to get completely obliterated on alcohol or something like that. And it's not quite a twerk ready song and a complete go crazy dance, grind action kind of song. It's just more of a, you know, to me, it felt just like a date kind of song, a song that you listen to out on a date where you're going to hear music, but you're not necessarily drinking and dancing and that type of stuff. But it can be danced to, but it seemed to me more of like a date type song. So it's decent for that. And then Party Train was a pretty reckless club song. This is reminiscent of the way LMFAO typically was. This one did the worst out of the three singles, but I still have to say this is probably my favorite of the singles that they released. This easily crunk song, this kind of real crunchy club type song that Lil Jon and E40 and those type cats would do back in the day, and it works, especially for 2016. It's definitely, that there needed to be more songs like this around that time. This is definitely an original one, just because it, there weren't many folks like LMFAO, especially way out in 2016, 5 years after they disappeared. That's pretty good. Yeah, to sit there and talk about some of these moments, like there's a number of hits on here. Like I feel like Beach Cruisin' and Booty Man are kind of rap. They have more of like a rap flavor and are kind of more typical like club sense. They kind of have more of like a typical club sense, Friday night type stuff, not so much going to a restaurant and kind of more daytime, kind of festive type stuff, activities like barbecues and luau's and that type of stuff and blowouts and that type of stuff. But, that this general stuff like that. But it kind of deviates between night oriented stuff and kind of more day kind of oriented stuff. Like I feel like Lights Out is a lot like New Thing and Juicy Wiggle, where it kind of has like that doo-wop and kind of more restaurant going out kind of feel. I'm trying to think if there's more moments like that on this project, but it's this kind of, it's a new angle for like the LMFAO collective to kind of have like that sort of vibe where it's not just solely, I guess they've realized that people are not trying to pound shots of liquor every single day and that type of stuff. So it has that extra sensibility towards it. But there are some songs, if you really just are obsessed with LMFAO and you miss that kind of construction about them, especially from Sorry for Party Rocking, there's songs like Keep Shining, which basically feels like Party Rock Anthem 2.0. And then So Lit, which is another vibe in that same LMFAO old school type vibe. So that's interesting enough to kind of get that. You get a hodgepodge of more you'll definitely get some club tracks on here. I feel like songs like Party Train, Beach Cruisin', Booty Man, and Good Things Happen When You're Drunk have that kind of feel of just like crunchy club type numbers where they're meant for VIP and liquor and that type stuff. And then you have like your day kind of restaurant, kind of date kind of songs, this midday out and about kind of songs like Juicy Wiggle, New Thing, and Lights Out. And then you actually have this kind of disco number. This was an unexpected one. There's a song that has Stevie Wonder on there. He doesn't sing, but he does, I think, the piano and the harmonica. But Where the Sun Go has this really kind of disco electro pop kind of feel. That's the only song like it. I would have loved to have heard another song like this. It could have easily been a pretty hit single. It has a real nice evening feel. I definitely like that one. And yeah, there's just overall good stuff. It's the right length, just enough songs for every sort of fashion, three or four of each type that you're looking for, even a few songs that have like LMFAO original vibes. And really, the only clunker I felt like was on here was just Maybe. I mean, I'm not going to list like Meet Her at Tomorrow as one of the songs I enjoy. There were only two songs I didn't wholesomely enjoy, but really, the only true clunker on this project was just Maybe, which was just trying to kind of be like an introspective, kind of thought provoking kind of song that just didn't really work that well because Redfoo is just not typically, that's not his vibe. He's become almost too typecast in his party lifestyle. So this, I definitely feel like this is an area he needs to flesh out way more. But so like I said, I could list the 10 songs that I enjoy, but it seems to make more sense just to list the two songs that I didn't, which are basically just Meet Her at Tomorrow and Maybe. But yeah, all of these songs really kick ass. I mean, the songs I would listen to, especially, supposing going out would still be more of a thing and, just going back to drinking days and that type of stuff. I definitely feel like Beach Cruisin', Booty Man, Party Train, and Good Things Happen When You're Drunk are perfect for that. I mean, there's just a number of moments that have like the festivities. This is just an overall social album, but unfortunately, because it's only 13 songs, you only get about three or four of each type of thing. So between trying to bring back the LMFAO vibes, doing some club tracks and crunchy, outgoing songs at night, and then doing the daytime outgoing songs, there's not really enough room for much else. I mean, there's even a few more tricks that I described to you the last three songs on the project, but basically, I like the length on here, but it just leaves you kind of hungry for more. And that's kind of the situation. Is it definitely kind of has that vibe where you get something, you definitely get what you want, but if you're a fan of any particular one of these styles that I described to you, unfortunately, there's only one or two other songs like that, or sometimes three songs like that, that you'll find as extras to that kind of vibe. So it's compact, but also compact to a fault. So that's the thing. But I give this album a 10 out of 10. I definitely think it's outstanding. Great singles, great vibes, great attempt and execution of what it was trying to do. Redfoo has some solid character and is easily still maintains the star power that he had back in the LMFAO days. Maybe it's not quite as crazy as he was back in 2011 with uh, Sorry for Party Rocking, and maybe also the singles are not quite as poignant as he was when he had that sweet spot back in 2011, but they are still good songs and good music. It's definitely like to me like the distant cousin of that style. I mean, if you're looking for sheer songs like Party Rock Anthem and Sexy and I Know It, no, it doesn't have songs on that magnitude, but they're still great outgoing and dance and just festive kind of songs. I definitely appreciate that. The social score I'll give a 7 out of 10 because the singles tried. I mean, this is, like I said, this album only sold 144 copies in Australia, and they haven't even listed like how many it sold in America, which may have only been like 50 or 25, which is pretty terrible considering that this guy is a actual celebrity that hit number one a couple of times on the Billboard. So to fall that far from mainstream grace, it's kind of odd to me, but I still appreciate it, and these are still good songs. It just depends upon how many people are like, well, what the fuck? I had no clue this even happened, kind of thing. This is kind of the concept, but yeah, in terms of the future, this is anything from the LMFAO's collective most recent attempts. Redfoo himself has dropped singles here and there, but I'm not really sure if he'll ever put out another album. And really, time is ticking. If we're going to get one, I'd like to get some more. But I'm definitely glad that this album happened. It's like basically like the third LMFAO album for absolutionists of that style, but I'm just not sure if there's going to be more, but hopefully there will be.